Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another episode of DBS history. This time we're going to talk about Mecha Frieza's very short reign of terror in the Dragon Ball Super card game. It was really our first Tier 0 format where you really couldn't play much else that could compete with the deck. There were a few rogue options, but this one in particular, this was a dark time in Dragon Ball. Funnily enough though, like the Mecha Frieza mirror match, I personally thought was like more skillful than, let's say, like Super Shenron, which is another Tier 0 format. I'll probably do a video on Super Shenron probably in a few months because it's still kind of fresh. I guess it's the most recent Tier 0 format. But with that being said, guys, before we get into the video, enough of my rambling. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with awesome Dragon Ball Super content that I post here. Looking for a Dragon Ball Super community to get in touch with, make sure to check out the Discord in the description below. Amazing, helpful group of people. If you would like to get caught up on some competitive content now that we are heading towards nationals, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description below. Really helps the channel out a lot. And finally, guys, if you want to buy any of the cards I talk about in this video, maybe not Mecha Frieza because it is errated, but any other cards I talk about, make sure to use my link to TCG Player in the description below. Really helps the channel out a lot, guys. Really appreciate each and every one of you that does that for me. With that being said, we'll get into the video. So this was an episode of DBS history that was requested by a subscriber. So shout out to that one particular subscriber that wanted to learn more about Mecha Frieza. So talking about Mecha Frieza, it pretty much was fresh right when I got into the game, which was right in the middle of set 2. So I got into the game in the middle of set 2, then the draft box came out that included the Mecha Frieza leader. And right off the rip, a lot of people knew the leader was crazy in theory, just having the ability to use extra cards basically whenever you wanted to. And we'll just read the effects so that you can get an idea of what it does if you don't know. So permanent, this is the unerrated effect. Permanent, when you activate an extra card, you may choose one card in your life and add it to your hand. If you do, reduce the energy cost of the extra card by 1 for the duration of the turn. If this reduces the energy cost of that extra card to less than 1, you may activate the card without paying its specified cost. So if you guys are really new to the game, don't know what specified cost is, those are the two, or I guess the few bubbles that are in the top left corner of the card's cost. They're going to be a color of either, like, you know, yellow, blue, green, red. That is how many of that in particular color you have to pay. So basically what this says is if you reduced an extra card's cost to 0 or less than 1, you would be able to activate it without paying the specified cost. Otherwise, you would have to pay that specified cost. Awaken, when it's 4 or less, draw 2 and flip this card over. This was also before any of the untapped 2 leaders were ever a thing, so keep that in mind. Permanent, on the Awaken side, when you activate an extra card, you may choose one card in your life and add it to your hand. If you do, reduce the energy cost of that extra card by 2 for the duration of the turn. If this reduces the energy cost of that extra card to less than 1, you may activate the card without paying the specified cost. When this card attacks, draw 1 card. So pretty much same idea on the backside. And you guys might not even know what extra cards were abused at that point. I will go over some lists from back then. So basically, back to what I was saying before, you had the effect. People knew that it was going to be pretty insane. But in the set 2 era, there wasn't a whole lot to take advantage of it. And really, people didn't even get the gist of what the top cards were to take advantage of it. Like one of them, for example, Encouraging Presence Monaka. What it says is your leader gains double strike and you draw a card. It costs 1 blue energy. But with Mecha Frieza, that is basically just a card that says take a life, draw a card, and your leader gains double strike. So that is basically a pot of greed if you guys know the Yu-Gi-Oh reference. I'll show you guys what that card is in particular in the deck profile or the deck list, because you know that card's probably just sitting in your really bad bulk if you're an older player. But anyways, move into set 3. This leader got absolutely snapped in half, broken, like uncompete-withable, if that's even a phrase I can say. There was only one tournament that this leader was legal for full power in set 3, and that was the San Jose pre-regional back in 2 summers ago, I guess now at this point. That was the first event that I went to for this game. I personally took Mecha Apes, which we'll look at in a second, and that was my first hop in the game, which pretty much inspired me to create the channel. So a little bit of I guess crossworld history for you guys there. So let's look at the errata now. So before, we read what it does already. After the errata, you can only do the above effect during your opponent's turn. So no longer can you take life during your own turn to activate extra cards for free, basically. And if you use this skill to add a card in your life to your hand, negate the skill for the duration of the turn. So basically what they did to the unawakened side of the leader is say, okay, you cannot do this during your opponent's during your own turn anymore, so you don't get that free self-awaken. And now it is only once per turn of your opponent's turn. So you still can't like defensively turbo awaken with like a bunch of negates, a bunch of cold bloodlusts. And back at this time, Cold Bullets was at 4 copies per deck, so that was an even more busted card with this leader. Now if we look at the errata of the Awakened side, the only thing they added to it was during your opponent's turn. So once you get to your Awakened side during your opponent's turn, you can take as much life as you want in order to use extra cards on your opponent's turn, but still only during your opponent's turn, not during your own turn. And this errata took effect on May 1st, 2018. So a little over a year ago, I guess a decent amount of over a year ago, but that was when this errata took place. Like I said, only had 1 tournament. So real quick, let's look at the deck that I used at the San Jose Regional. This is the exact main deck that I used. I actually scrounged this up from the first video ever on the channel. If you guys want to look at that, you can. I wouldn't recommend it. It wasn't one of my best videos, but it's there. So this list, Mecha Apes. There are really 2 decks in this format, 2.5 kind of. A big one was Mecha Apes. The other one was Mecha Veggies, which we'll look at in a second. The third one was Mecha GT, which was like a Mecha, and this is before Triple Flash was a thing, but it was like Mecha Shugeshing into the 3-drop Goku, evolving into big SS4s, things like that. So this build, my particular favorite because it was the most oppressive against Rogue, I would say. Like, it had a really strong Rogue matchup. Pretty good Mecha Veggies matchup if you could establish the King Ape. The King Ape you guys might recognize from the modern format because it is kind of gaining back popularity now with Red Yellow Apes, things like that. And this guy, you were able to drop him as early as turn 2. There's actually a neat little combo where on turn 2, you could awaken, either turn 1 or turn 2. You could activate an objection for 1 energy, untap energy with Bean. And there was a combo, I forget it off the top of my head, but there's actually a combo where you could go turn 2, resolve double March of the Great Apes. You would put yourself down to 1 life. You would play 4 apes onto the board using March of the Great Apes, one of the cornerstones of the deck. Choose up to 2 Great Ape cards with energy cost of 4 or less from your hand and play them, then draw 2 cards. It's pretty funny because I was on stream at one of the games in San Jose. I was playing against a Beerus player, so a rogue deck that was actually really well equipped to deal with Mecha Veggies. But what happened was I did the turn 2 double March combo on him, and Dusty O'Brien, who was commenting at the time, he said if he does it, I'm gonna get off stream. And I did it. He walked off stream, and I still watch that every now and again. And it was pretty funny. But looking at the other cornerstones of the deck, Encouraging Presence Manaka, the card I wanted to show you guys before. Your leader gains double strike, which is obviously relevant for game ending. Draw 1 card, and it's an extra card, so your leader just draws a life with it. So draw a life, draw a card, and then with the introduction of Planet Vegeta, Mecha Frieza just got off the walls insane. So you obviously had 4 draw ones that self-awakened, and we had 4 searchers that self-awakened. And then on top of that, defensively, there was Cold Bloodlust, there was Nimbus, there was Senzu Bean. Untapping 2 with Senzu Bean was insane. Let's say you're at 2 life and your opponent attacked you, you were tapped out, you could Senzu Bean to 1, and you had tons of energy available for all your different plays. Objection, this was like a card that some ape decks didn't play. Like if you didn't want to go all into the double March combo, or if you just didn't feel like you needed it, you wanted to play a little bit of a slower game, but I decided to take full advantage of it. It seemed really good, and I liked it a lot. Got me my first top. And of course, Unwavering Solidarity Shugesh, one of the most broken cards the game has ever seen. This has been legal up to more recent formats, so you guys might recognize it. But basically, in this deck in particular, you were going to be Shugeshing out the King Vegeta to search any ape you needed. Considering, you can grab the big ape to evolve on top of it. You can grab any ape you're missing for your March combo. Or you could Shugesh out Explosive Spirit Son Goku. Then, of course, we have our 2 apes, the Bardock Will of Iron and the Great Ape Prince Vegeta. So rounding off the deck, one card I want to talk about, Zarbon, Emperor's Attendant. Another card you might recognize from more modern formats. This card's been used in Skillless to deal with like Height of Mastery with Android 8, things like that. But I thought this card was super good in Apes. No one else really played it in the main deck. Some people sided it. Cool. With that being said, we will look at Mecha Veggies real quick. Now, this is not like the best Mecha Veggie build. It's actually kind of weird. I did a search on YouTube for Mecha Veggies that like topped in this time, and I couldn't really find anything that topped like San Jose. Maybe it definitely topped the event, I know that for sure, but everything I saw was like post Veggies. So I threw together a list that would definitely suffice for like a starting Mecha Veggie list back then. Obviously everything is set 3 and before. So we see all the same things, of course, Manaka, Planet Vegeta, Bloodlust, Nimbus, things like that. But now we have the introduction of the Veggie engine, and set 3 is where we had the Caulifla Bold Sister come out. So that gave the engine, new life. And Teamwork Kawa came out in that set's dash pack. So you would go, if you had the best hand possible, you go turn 1 Turbo Awaken with a Manaka and Planet Vegeta, search everything you need, you Shugesh Kaba into play, you get, 2 bodies on the board, start going really aggro. Turn 2, do it all over again. And then when you had at least one Cobb on the board, you would turn Hidden Awakening Kale, which had just come off the previous format of set 2, being probably the most broken card in the entire format. This card now became Shugeshable. You could Shugesh it on defense, pop up to 5 costs on your opponent's board. You could, combo into a bunch of swings and then draw cards with Kale. It was absolutely bananas. And Shugesh Kid Goku, anytime you hear an arrival card now that pop something mid-battle, you might hear it referred to as Shugesh Kid Goku. Shugesh Kid Goku was the most free way to pop a threat mid-battle. Like, when Shugesh was around and before Cronoa was a thing, you really could not swing with a battle card unless it had barrier, and like you couldn't be sure that it would go through. It was just insane. Terraside Goku Black and Endless Evolution Broly, these were cards that people played with Shugesh as well because they had really good effects. Broly popped a card of your opponent's choosing. Usually it wouldn't be too many cards, especially if it was like apes or something like that. Terraside Goku Black, one of my personal favorites with Shugesh. When you play this card, you get 2 shadow tokens, 10,000 power, 0 combo cost, 5,000 power. It just made your reach for game ending like absolutely insane. Like, literally, Shugesh in this was a 25k combo. Like, that was really, really nuts. And back in the day, man, oh my goodness, Endless Evolution Broly, Scientist Fu, Bardock Will of Iron, those were all of the tournament pack cards, and those all were about $20, $30, $40 a piece. That was a good time to go to locals back in the Dragon Ball Super card game, I gotta say. So these were the 2 most dominant decks in the format. Like I said, there was also Mecha GT, which was it had potential to kill like turn 1 if they had the nuts, but like typically turn 2. But really, if you had like well-timed negates, you could pretty easily stop their plan. That was definitely the most rogue of the Mecha lists. Now what I want to do, guys, just for a little bit of fun, there's actually some people toying around with a tournament that would be, open ban list, like Mecha Frieza unerrata, Shugesh unbanned, Bloodlust back to 4, like everything's unbanned, like everything, like Super Shenron as well. And this is a list I threw together. I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all of, what it would be, but this is a list that I put together that I think Mecha Frieza veggies would look like right now. And like I said before, guys, with that turn 1 Awaken, Kaba has so many more targets right now that it would be absolutely nuts. So this is actually, I think, a 5-color build. Yeah, so we got red, blue, green, yellow, and black. So we have every color in the game in this build. Pretty funny. So now, you're Shugeshing into Kaba. You've got insane targets. You've got the red Caulifla, the green Caulifla, and the new yellow Caulifla from set 7 that taps energy. So tons of aggro options there. You should literally never miss with this Kaba. It actually might not be possible to miss with the Kaba. I guess it's possible, but it would be very unlikely. Then we've got, of course, the Kales. You bring off the red Caulifla. Then we've got Hidden Awakening because, of course, you'll get Kabas established very early. It's kind of funny. In modern builds of veggies, you don't really see Hidden Awakening at more than like 2 copies because it's really hard to drop. But if you had 4 Shugesh like we had back in the day, this would be absolutely nuts. Mira Assault from the Skies would be insane because, of course, 30k Double Strike's great. It's like Scientist Fu in the sense that, you draw 1 instead of, you don't draw 2. But it's a 5k combo, so you don't clunk because you might tap out a lot. And you get an energy back on your opponent's turn for things like Bean, things like Nimbus, things like Bloodlust, and things of that nature. So overall, this is what I think a list like would probably look like in the modern day. This probably would be one of the most broken decks in the game if this was full power. Like, I don't know, I find it hard to imagine that like this and Super Shenron, I wonder what would win, honestly. This might be a little bit too aggro for Super Shenron, believe it or not. Like, Super Shenron I don't think has the potential to kill before turn 3, but this thing, like Shugesh Kaba on turn 1, that's pretty insane. So hopefully I was able to give you guys enough information about what Mecha Frieza used to be like. Like I said, it only lived for 1 tournament. San Jose was the only event this leader was legal at full power in set 3. Ever since then, it's been errated. The leader is still really cool, in my opinion. Like, having that free defense is really cool, but the fact that it's draw 2 leader, the fact that it doesn't gain advantage on the front side, those things make it a little bit hard to play in the current format. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of DBS History, and I'll see you next time.